Hi, I'm Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. Dr. Rhonda Freeman, welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast.
Thank you, Michelle. Great to be here.
I know. I was telling you, I'm so excited to have you on. I really have been a big fan of your work for a while. And I told you I've been stalking you. I'm like, I love this girl. We have to have her on the show. So it's just an honor to have you on talking about this very important topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious. I like to know, so how did you even get interested in this topic? Do you have a little bit of a story you want to share with us?
Oh, I do. I've been a neuropsychologist for years, obviously. And, but the reason I got into this topic was a personal one. I met this man and I fell in love. And I mean, you could not have told me how lucky I was to have met this man. I mean, I'm like, my God, how did I get so lucky? You know, he was just gorgeous and he was intelligent. I was learning things from him. He was a scientist. He was a business person. I mean, he just had all the boxes checked. I'm like, why hasn't anybody scooped up this man? You know? Yeah. So, and so we had a relationship, and I mean, he put me on a pedestal so much that I actually kind of look at that like, God, this is a little bit weird. I mean, I have confidence, but he's going a little overboard, you know, I don't think this much of myself as this person does. It's just bizarre. Yeah. But I kind of put that red flag to the back burner, and we got into a relationship, and for months it was great. And then it's just it was insidious. It was slow. It was like a frog boiling in a pot, you know, you didn't realize that there was abuse. And so this person would just start to say things. It would start off with sarcastic comments, and then it would be digs, and then it would just be outright I've been called the C word, the B word, just everything. Wow. Stupid, everything. And so, he flippantly broke up with me via a text. And I was shockingly devastated. That's what kind of surprised me, that I was devastated, because I logically, my brain was like, oh, thank God, it's, you know, you're done with this crazy person. Yeah. You know, but emotionally I was like, I'm done with this guy. What's going on? We got to go get him back. And so through that whole painful process, I got to learn about me, and I kind of got to apply neuropsychology to me. And so I shifted away from just, you know, being this neuropsychologist who saw my patients every day in the practice to, wow, now that I feel better, I've got to go back and let these people know what the heck is going on with people like this. Yeah. And it shifted more from not just teaching about people like this to trying to also then really help survivors who are like me. Yeah. It was not because I went to school specifically for this. I went to school for brain trauma and learning about the brain and helping with the brain, not this. So, yeah. Wow.
So how long did that take, Rhonda? How long were you dating this man before you started seeing these red flags? What was that time period?
For him, it was pretty short. He pursued me for 7 months. And I didn't want to be involved because I had just gotten out of a relationship, and it wasn't a traumatic relationship or anything like that. It was just a normal relationship. You know, you kind of both went your separate ways and whatever. Yeah. But I just felt like, I know I don't want to be this person jumping. So let's just kind of hold off. And he's like, oh, I'll just wait, you know. And I'm like, oh, what a nice guy. So it was 7 months of pursuit, and then 3 or 4 months of a relationship, and then in total the relationship was under a year long. It was pretty short. So it was pretty short.
So then it ended, but he didn't keep pursuing you after he broke up with you. Like that was it. He was just done.
No.
That's what I was like, wait, hold on.
No, he broke up with me, and I was devastated, and I did things that were embarrassing, like trying to see what was going on with his life, trying to learn about this new girl, like why, what was she better, all these like things you do when you're out of your mind, out of these relationships and acting out of character. And then once I got like healed and feeling much, much better, he came back around. Like I had blocked him from everything, but he came back around via professional routes, trying to like email me via the company I work for, and telling me how proud he was of me because he read all these articles I've written for major publications, and look at you, I'm so proud of you, and I knew you were so brilliant. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, first off, the articles are about you. Like, what are you doing? Like, So every few years he'll kind of pop back in and express how proud he is of me.
Gosh.
They're all boomerangs. They come back.
And he doesn't even know you're talking about him. That's hysterical.
I think he does. He's not an idiot, but I just think his denial of his disorder.
Yeah.
He just won't ever say. Yeah.
So tell us, what is a neuropsychologist?
Yeah. So a neuropsychologist, we're a little bit different from psychologists. Like, for example, I've never been trained to provide therapy. So you would never come to me. Some neuropsychologists are, but not to me if you want therapy. I'm in a neurology practice here. And so all my colleagues here are either a neurologist or a neurosurgeon.
Wow. Okay.
And so what we do here is we see people who might have Alzheimer's disease, or who've had a stroke, or who've had a traumatic brain injury, or various kinds of neurological incidents that could not obviously impact just the brain, but the body. And so when they pull me in is when they want to know, hey, Rhonda, what's going on with this? Does this person have a dementia, or is this just normal aging? Or, okay, my patient just had a traumatic brain injury. Can they go back to work? And so I'll be the one who will do an evaluation. And for neuropsych, evaluations mean we give things like an IQ test, we give memory tests, concentration tests, various tests, but we also spend a great deal of time doing interviews, because that's how we really get into the history, but also know the person. And I'll do like personality tests. And we spend minimum 4 hours. Sometimes I'll spend 9 hours, broken across a few days with a patient to get the evaluations done. But through that though, I've been exposed to people with personality disorders.
Interesting.
So that's how so oftentimes when you'll see me speak on my social media platforms, I'll be referring to when I see patients with personality disorders. Like I've diagnosed narcissistic personality disorders like a billion times, or psychopathy a billion times. You get to see a large range of people. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a big population that I see, especially when my patients have had traumatic brain injuries. Sadly, sometimes somebody will be killed in the accident, or
Interesting. Fascinating. So you know the brain really, really well.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So how can a romantic relationship with a violating person, how can it actually change our brains?
Yeah. Interestingly, in general, experiences change our brain. It's one of these organs that it's very plastic. It's very changeable. We're not just born with this sort of set brain, thankfully. And so it changes in response to the person that we are with. And oftentimes when you're with somebody who's a psychopath or a narcissist, they actually make neural pathways activate that really wouldn't be activated with other people, the trauma type of neural pathways. And so the brain sort of gets in that groove of having those neural pathways activated of trauma, like the more safety, threat, defense set of responses. And when I'm with somebody that I love and who's safe, I'm not going to have the threat system of my brain going off or the defense system of my brain going off. But yet, if you're with a narcissist, you're going to have that happen. And that's because the brain will do whatever it takes to protect this whole system, meaning you, the body, the whole system. And so if it detects threat, it might make you go into fight, flight, freeze, appease. You might look codependent when you're with that person. You might look very, very sort of walking on eggshells. And we do that. You think, my gosh, why was I walking on eggshells? Why was I appeasing this person? Why did I look kind of pathetic? And so I often tell people, please don't judge that response. That was your threat response. The brain chose at that time with that person to keep you safe. So don't disrespect that response, but be aware, of it and where it comes from and why.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I can hear some of my clients over all these years say, why did I stay? What was wrong with me? Why did I keep making excuses? Why did I keep trying to make it better? What's wrong with me? What was I doing wrong? So what would you say to that?
They were doing nothing wrong. That is absolutely what will happen.
Yeah.
A narcissist is a very unique person. We thankfully don't encounter this kind of person in our normal life, and normal people don't behave this way. They do two things that normal people don't ever blend. Like a normal partner will never activate our bonding systems. We have what's called a bonding system of the brain. I won't go into all the neurochemistry and brain sections with that, but just know that we do have a bonding system. We also have a threat system in our brain. Those two should not be activated and intermingled. And interestingly and unfortunately, a relationship with a psychopath or a narcissist will literally make both of those things happen simultaneously. The brain is kind of like in this confused state. It's feeling afraid of this person or threatened in some way by this person, because we are threatened when somebody's sarcastic or nasty or critical. That kind of makes you go, ooh, this isn't a safe person. But because in the beginning they've connected with us, like remember when I thought my guy was so amazing, and I was like, wow, look at me, I got this guy, he's so great. I bonded. And then you bond in the beginning, because that's what normal people do. You bond when somebody's good to you. So you don't expect that down the road, ooh, Michelle, in 3 months, this is not going to be the same guy. And that your threat system is going to be going off. And so the brain doesn't get rid of the bonding part.
That's so interesting. So we're bonded and we're holding on, right? It's like we're holding hands, yet even though we're in threat, we can't let go.
There you go. Yeah. So what do you do?
So then we rationalize, we say, well, he's probably having a bad day, or she's whomever. Yeah. I'm thinking about this, Rhonda. What about the children that are in households with a parent or both parents that are narcissists? Like what happens to their brains? Because this is not just a 1-year relationship or a 10-year relationship. This is 18 years until if they end up going and leaving the house when they're 18. What about a kid raised in this environment?
Well, I mean, you see that with children all the time, though. And even adult children, they seem somehow to have this odd loyalty or bond, even though logically you will hear them say, my mother or my father was not a supportive person, or he was a very difficult man. And yet they feel this loyalty to that person, to take care of that person, because of the exact same thing is going on. Sadly, though, for children, this is happening on an underdeveloped brain. So we have a little bit of protection as an adult when for me, like as an adult, I had already fully functioning, working prefrontal cortex. The child does not. All they have is that really strong emotional system that doesn't have the guardrails up quite yet.
Yes.
And our adults in our lives are our regulators. But if your adults in your life were narcissists and psychopaths, that's so hard. That's so hard. You'll be on a long road of recovery and healing and learning and insight, and trying to figure out what kind of boundaries am I going to set with this parent? Am I going to set boundaries that such that, no contact or limited contact, or just be aware that when I'm around this person, they're disordered and I'll just function in the most superficial, because some do that. They don't want to totally throw a relationship away. So they'll just sort of interact in the most superficial way possible. It's not even a real relationship. It's just, they're kind of meeting the narcissist where the narcissist parent is. So it's really hard on children.
That is so, but because of neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to change and be plastic and mold and morph.
Yeah.
What I hear you say is anyone can heal.
Oh, yes.
That's what I like hearing. That's awesome. And I think that I'd like your opinion on this. So I feel like when someone has gone through a relationship like this, whether it be parents or in a partnership, doesn't matter, with a boss, I don't care.
Yeah.
In our healing process and transforming, it's really important that we have what I call a touchstone for truth. Like, because we
Mm,
don't know what truth is. We don't know what healthy reality looks like.
yeah.
So it's really important that they get a therapist, find a coach, find a friend that says,
Oh,
hold
yeah.
on a second, what your so-and-so just did is not healthy. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that? Or would you agree with that, disagree? Tell us a little bit about
No,
like
I
the
100,
healing process. Like, how do we heal
yeah.
from this to help the
Yeah.
brain?
Michelle, what you said is completely 100% accurate. You have to have
Yeah.
others
Yeah.
to heal, even if that means if you don't really have others, like then you just will have to do a great deal of research and work to find a very safe support
Yeah.
group, because they're really important. Because as we talked about that bonding system, it just
Yes.
needs a healthy source. The brain knows what to do. It's going to naturally have what's called sort of a resonance. It has this sort of back and forth relationship with other brains. It's called co-regulation.
Yeah.
And it co-regulates with a healthy being by, releasing oxytocin. That's very calm. And you don't have to have this person to talk to you about what happened. You don't have to say, you know what, my ex did this. Never. You don't have to say anything about it. Just being with that person is regulating. Being with a narcissist or a psychopath is dysregulating. They will just throw your brain off. And I mean, I don't have to preach to the choir. I'm sure you all know that.
Oh, yeah. And, leaves us in a state of wondering what's coming next. How are they going to show up
Yeah.
today? It's walking on eggshells, like you were saying. And it's just, and the nervous system is,
Oh yeah,
stressed
you
out all
feel
the time.
terrible.
What do you say to people that, again, they feel guilty? It's so fascinating, as a victim of this abuse, whether it be from parents, and I'm thinking a lot more of, I guess, parents, but even if it's, a sibling or a partner, they feel guilty for then wanting to set a boundary. Like, well, I can't because fill in the blank, but there's a guilt around seeing what's true, seeing what's real. People can overcome that as well, correct?
They can, yeah. It's a process.
Yeah.
Education helps, awareness helps, insight helps. Learning about the disorder a little bit helps. And I
Yeah.
say a little bit because this is one of those conditions that, I mean, I've been teaching this since 2013, and I get really worried when I see the same people are still with me learning about the disorder.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, it's been, almost 10 years and they're still learning about, like, they're still sort of stuck in this loop, still trying to learn about the narcissist and ask me questions about the narcissist. And I think, wow, they need to shift and focus on this person,
Yeah.
because when you sort of realize that they have a disorder, and some people don't like to even hear me say that, because they think they'll know they're just evil. They're hateful, evil people. They have a disorder. The fact is they do.
Yeah.
And so you can't be accountable for that disorder. And it's okay to not want somebody who is violating to you in your life. It's completely okay. You're not a bad person for needing to put up that boundary, because if you do not, at some point, with a violating person in some way, either I talked about, the low contact or superficial only contact or no contact,
Right.
then you're going to get sick physically. You're going to eventually end up getting sick
So
physically.
true.
It's going to come out somewhere.
So true.
These two things are not separate. They're connected, the brain and body. So you're going to pay a price. So
that's so true. The nervous system cannot exist in this state of high anxiety for a long, long, long time without getting sick. So you're so right. So it's really important. And I think what you've said a few times is really important for people to hear is information. I can't tell you how many people have sat on my couch and I've looked across the room at them. I'm like, have you heard of the term, gaslighting or narcissism? They're like, no. Well, I think that might be what's going on. And they're in shock. And I just say, go home and Google it. Just go to Google, see then if what you're researching applies to you. And then they'll come back, and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So I think information is huge. And also acceptance, like accepting these people. And it's not about judging. So I'm thinking again of parents, you don't have to judge them. It is what it is, but acceptance doesn't mean I like it or not like it. It just is accepting people for who they are. And it has not much to do with the person. It's not much to do with me. I just need to accept my mom for who she is. And she's a narcissist. And then I have to learn how to navigate that that relationship.
Right. That's when you can make your decision, no contact, low contact, superficial
Yeah.
contact. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not like judging them. It's
No, there's no
sadly they have a
judgment.
disorder.
Yeah. And I think that's where people get so stuck. They're like, but it's my mom. I'm like, I know it's your mom. And there's the bonding, like you're saying, it's like the holding hands. I can't let go. It's like, no, but we need to build some boundaries around it because you're getting sick. So how do you break away from a violating person if your brain is changed? And then how do you do that? Like, how do you heal the brain? So if I'm in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, how do we wake up to say, I got to get out of here? How do we do that? And then heal the brain after that?
Right. It is very difficult. I won't, sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah. So once you realize, you can just go, I mean, because I can assure you education is not the sort of the only way. You know what I mean? Like I was literally involved in a relationship with somebody who had the disorder, and I was going to work during that relationship diagnosing that disorder in other people.
Yeah.
So it's not solely an education thing.
Right.
For me, breaking away kind of was really abrupt. He discarded me. Some of you, it's not that case. You just may be in this relationship and have that realization that God, maybe I'm with somebody who has this disorder.
Yeah.
But it's really, it's a tough process. It's going to take support. It's going to take kind of like what we talked about, like realizing that the person may not be a bad person, but this person is not a safe person.
Yeah.
And what I didn't do when I was going through my relationship was kind of checking in with how I felt, like how he made me feel, how my body felt, what my brain was saying. Because, the thing with our brain is it's always there to protect you and take care of you. And you can listen to those messages, or you can try to fight those messages and go, what's wrong with me that I'm so nervous, or I'm so anxious, or, he called me insecure. Maybe I am insecure because I like always bow down or always appease. All those are different modes of threat responses. And your brain's trying to say, hey, Rhonda, like we're scared here. Or Rhonda, like we're not acting in our normal self. This isn't good. Like, can you get us out of this? So having awareness is helpful because I had education, but as you saw, I had no awareness.
How did you wake up to it? Like, what happened? Did you just suddenly one day say, wait a minute, what's happening here? What happened with you?
I was still with him when I had the awareness I'm sorry, not the awareness, but that the diagnosis was really apparent, but I didn't have the awareness, this was bad for me. I'm trying my best to separate it. And thank goodness I don't have too many people as neuropsychologists or psychologists kind of coming to me, because we have this unique situation where, people say you should know better.
I don't believe that. No,
I was told that a few times. You should know better.
No way. It's hard to see our own stuff.
We
really need others to mirror that. So no way. I do not say that to you.
No, thank you.
But did someone ever say to you, like, were there friends or family that said, "Hey, Rhonda, come on, what's going on here?"
The opposite. I remember
they just loved him.
Yeah. And one friend, I was actually telling her, this guy, I don't think I'm going to stay with him, because I actually was going to break up with him. I did break up with him. Actually, now that I think about it, I did. She disagreed with me, and she actually made this comment of, "Oh, you guys have such beautiful babies," and she's going on and on and on. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
Yeah. And I broke up with him, and when I broke up, he came back with all the intensity that narcissists do, and oh my God, you're the most wonderful thing, and I'm so sorry, and and literally within the next week, I think he was back with cheating on me again or something. But I know this all in retrospect. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're in the middle of it, we can't see it. We can't see it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's so tough to break away when you're in the relationship because of the whole bonding system. Our brain has a really hard time letting go of bonds.
Yeah.
It values them tremendously. It makes them a part of us. And so when we lose them, it feels like a part of us is missing.
Yeah.
And then the narcissist is really good about sort of chipping away very subtly at your sense of self-worth, your sense of self-esteem. And by doing that, you may not realize it, you start leaning a little bit more and more on them, to feel good. And so you try to appease them. So your focus becomes that, and versus it doesn't become you, it becomes them. So many things need to shift in the healing process. It needs to become the focus is you, not
Yeah.
them, because there's
So it's
nothing you can
really
do
just
for
a
them.
rebuilding of self-worth,
Yes.
self-esteem, self-love,
Mhm.
like remembering who
Yeah.
we are, all of that kind of
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can change our brain again, like you said.
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
What else? So what else did you do? Was there anything else specifically that really helped you heal from this person, or is that it?
Yeah, initially I went the traditional psychology route and I went to a psychologist and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this person's just she's gonna help me because
Mhm.
I don't think this is just a breakup, It's like and back then it was like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
So we hadn't really framed it in this way. There was no narcissistic abuse. We hadn't framed it as you can have PTSD in response to a relationship. It really wasn't out
Yeah.
there at the time. And
Yeah.
so this person she really kind of poo-pooed it. Yeah, you were in a bad relationship. And then she said, but let's talk about your past. Tell me about your father. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm tell me about like now. Let's talk about now. Like I'm having this
Yeah.
reaction to this person. Why?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't really talk about me and this person that I was trying to get through. And so I realized I was getting worse every week with her.
Wow.
Worse and worse and worse. And to
I'm
the point
so glad you're saying this. Sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
no,
I'm
no,
going to
tell me
comment on
what-
that because people say to me, I've had people that have written into me on social media or even in emails, like, I'm not getting much from my therapist,
Yeah.
or my coach. Should I keep going? Like, no, why are you still with them? Use your intuition. And I've had people say to me, a few years ago, I remember someone had written in and she said, so I asked my therapist if I could have a session with you, and they got very upset with me. And she says, I just wanted to have one session and learn more about the adult share. And I said, are you out of your mind? Like, I thought that. Like, what therapist? I mean, I refer to everybody. I know I can't heal the world by myself. We need other people.
Yes.
Red flag city. So anyway, sorry, I don't want to I don't want to go off too much off topic, but yeah. So I'm so glad you said that. So your psychologist she wasn't helping. He wasn't helping you.
No,
okay,
she was
so
not.
then what'd you do?
So obviously I stopped going to her. Yes.
Obvious. That's obvious to us, but yes.
Yeah. And so I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't just continue existing. Like literally I was loving Monday through Friday, just so I could come to work and just dive into the brain of other people. I hated 5 o'clock because it was like, back to focusing on myself. And I hated weekends. Weekends were really hard for me because I was so traumatized, but I didn't even realize I was traumatized. So I decided, my background actually, when I first started in neuropsychology, I worked on in a brain rehabilitation hospital for a few years. And the hospital, our patients were people who had just had a stroke or just had brain trauma. So my job was to do a little bit of testing and figure out what they needed to help make the plan for, healing their brain. Clearly, everything was based on neuroplasticity. We were actually making these people better. And so then they would go into outpatient care and they would just continue to get better and better and better via the brain plan that I created for them. And I thought, okay, let's pretend that Rhonda Freeman is your patient. And I'm like, but this is different, Rhonda. This is emotional. And I'm like, what the heck? It's the same brain regions. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the same brain regions. What am I talking about? I'm still talking prefrontal cortex. I'm still talking the, areas of the emotional system. And so why would I treat myself any differently? So I started doing a lot of brain games, but I mean like seriously doing them like for 2 hours a day, every single day for minimum 6 months.
Like Lumosity, or what are you talking about?
Lumosity
what brain
wasn't
games?
available back then.
Okay. Oh yeah, we're in 2010. People didn't even use the word narcissism all that much in 2010.
No. So being a neuropsychologist, I actually had access to like the real brain trainings that we do with trauma and brain trauma and stroke victims. So I was using those. Okay. But I also I used a lot of games on Facebook because at the time Facebook was really big on having like these little games you could play.
Yeah.
And so I selected games that I knew were strong executive function games. I'm not going to say the name of them because then the companies might realize, wow, we have a brain game here.
Come on, you got to tell us the name of them. Come on, Rhonda. Give us one or two.
Okay. One of them was Diner Dash.
What's it called?
Diner Dash.
Diner Dash. Okay.
Is a waitress, and her job, she was under time pressure, and she had to take orders, for the food order, and then she had to place the food order, and then get the food orders in the proper order. And then she had to deliver them to the customers, who would get angry if she didn't do it fast enough, because you're on a time pressure. Then you had customers waiting at the door. So she was also the hostess. I know this is crazy. But the reason that I saw this as such a perfect executive function frontal lobe game, because there was planning, there was organization, and so you had to kind of map out where she was going. Like, I just knew all these various areas of my brain were being activated by this game. So I started feeling better and better and better and better and better. And I'm like, wow, not once did I ever have to talk about the relationship. Not once did I have to say what he did. Nothing. My brain just started getting healthier and healthier. Simultaneously, I was doing a lot of body work with myself. I didn't go to like a somatic experiencing doctor. I did what my own little thing. So don't take this as treatment advice, anybody, because this is what I did. But I'm a dancer, and so that's my background. I wanted to move in an empowered way, because I had started to, I saw myself as like shrunken. You know what I mean? And just like, I let this person have power over me and make me feel small. And I just needed to feel empowered again. I needed to get back to that person I knew, because I didn't recognize myself anymore. I'm like, who's this person who's meek and who's quiet? Like, that's not me. Yeah. And so I started dancing again, and that really helped me. I started trampolining. I love trampolining.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So a lot of like those kinds of body things.
And
so it worked. Yeah, I got back to me. But prior to that, if you would have seen me that year or after my relationship, it would not be the person you're sitting with right now. It was kind of somebody who was really just, I looked sad. I just depleted.
So, question. Thank you for sharing Diner Dash. So would someone now use Lumosity? Like, that would be a good, you like that one?
They can use that. I don't know if it's strong enough. I mean, for example, if you ever were to play Diner Dash, it's really, really, really challenging. And Lumosity really focuses on like memory and concentration, but it's a little bit light.
Okay. Too light. Okay.
Yeah. To me, a little bit too light, but yeah, they could, or Brain HQ, maybe they can use something like that. That's another
Brain
one.
HQ. Okay. I figure you're the expert.
They use that in the NFL. I think, what's his name? The really popular winning quarterback in New England.
Tom Brady?
Yeah, I think
he is in your state now. You should know this.
Oh, it's embarrassing. Especially because I'm from like NFL world. But,
you should know this, Rhonda.
I should know that. That's
so Brain HQ. Okay. So we'll tell people. And this is my question though. So when we're in a relationship with a psychopath or a narcissist, what happens to our prefrontal cortex, that executive functioning part of the brain? What happens to it?
Just in general, with respect to trauma, it kind of takes a back seat to your threat system, to your emotional system, those two systems, and think about why though it has to be. Because remember, this brain is going, I'm going to just love on you, Michelle, and protect you no matter what. So we're going to get through this. So it doesn't necessarily have you in that logic mode where you can go, you know what? And you could be still being logical. Obviously it works. But it's not going to override the threats and emotional system, because those systems really need to be ready in front of that narcissist. You don't know what he'll say that day or what she'll say that day or what they'll do. I mean, some people are not with narcissists only, they're with psychopaths. Now you got a more dangerous person who is harming your pets or violating your children or doing things that are absolutely dangerous. And so you've got to be in that ready mode, with that kind of person. So that's how it changes. It makes those, it makes your threat and emotional systems like the default neural networks. And that's not our default mode. Our default mode is more the kind of balance of those two systems, where the brain uses both, in and out, and nice interchangeably. We can, like right now, I'm very logical with you, but I'm also like jovial and emotional. And, you know, whereas I could never be that way in front of a psychopath. That you wouldn't want to be that way in front of a psychopath. That's unsafe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it changes you. It makes that system the kind of default mode. So once the relationship is over, that's your default mode. And it's
Oh,
not a good
wow.
thing because
No.
you can go years in that mode and everything kind of frightens you and people frighten you to the point that you
Hmm.
know what you think, I'm not going to date anybody just ever. I'm just going to stay away from people because they're unsafe.
Yes. Yes.
And so it makes you have those kinds of thoughts, that you just want to lock yourself away because just the world is very, very, very scary. Um,
Interesting. So this is because we lack I'm going to use the word energy, or I
mhm.
don't know what else to use. Energy
No,
in
it's
the
fine.
prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
So by working with prefrontal cortex, we can help bring ourselves back in balance.
That's one way. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
somatic experiencing is another way. I
Mhm.
personally like to just kind of combine both, top down, bottom up was what we
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do both and you just making sure it's just covering the whole gamut, body work and brain work.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. I love that. And that was my question. How do you feel safe again in relationships? Because so many people
Yeah.
say, I will never date again. That was the worst
Mhm.
relationship ever. I'll never get married again. Now that I'm out, nobody's safe. But that's
Yes.
because the energy's in the wrong part of the brain. Like they
Yeah.
are in that fight or flight
You
and they're
are in fight or
stuck
flight.
there.
You're stuck.
And it won't. So here's the question.
Mhm.
That part of the brain won't just naturally heal itself, even if we're away from or out of that relationship.
Not usually. If you've been traumatized, no, it's not going to
Okay.
naturally heal itself. I mean, think about the people who were traumatized and they're like 15 or so years old.
Yeah.
They will kind of almost forever have some kind of issue if they don't address it.
Okay.
This is what you have to address. You have to work on healing. Because when you
Okay.
work on healing, you change those default modes back to where they're supposed to be. Because the brain
Hmm.
isn't like, oh, I'm set. This is me. Nope. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that doesn't work anymore. We don't need that. Kind of, let's go this way now. And you can
Yeah.
make that happen. This is why I
Okay.
say just take a little bit of time with narcissist education where you learn about their dynamics, like you talked about the gaslighting,
Yeah.
all those different behaviors. Take a bit of time to learn about that, but don't stay stuck there
Hmm.
because that's not where your healing is. Your healing is elsewhere, and you need to get those neural pathways activated, and things will absolutely fall into place at that point. You
Mm.
go, oh my goodness, I feel empowered. I feel amazing. You may feel so amazing that you want to help other people because I think I made a post not too long ago about the 7 positive things that come from a narcissistic relationship, and one of
Yes.
them is that once you get your that feeling of power and healing back, you just want to do something.
Yes.
My do was neuro instincts, creating neuro instincts. I didn't just want to go back to my regular job because I'm like, whoa, 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 I gotta let everybody know about this. I want to do something. You want to get
Yeah.
behind a cause. You want to just make a difference in this world.
So
Um,
true.
mhm.
So
And
true.
your narcissistic radar is going to be really strong, so you can get around somebody, your body, if you are aware of your body, it
Hmm.
will give you signs like, oh, I've been around this kind of person before, and the person could be sitting in front of you with the biggest smile and the generosity, and niceness, but your body's screaming, "Whew,
Wow.
I have been
So,
around this
so what
person
do you
before."
say to somebody that falls for a narcissist or a psychopath twice or more than once?
It happens. It happens. I mean, narcissists are always out there looking for relationships.
Hmm.
And I understand that can easily happen. And especially if, you're a loving, warm person,
Hmm.
it just means that you've got some more work to do. And I'm not trying to blame you, but I work to do because, it means that maybe the boundaries weren't quite there and you were completely
Hmm.
maybe in other mode versus maybe a bit more balanced towards yourself. Because, for example, when
Yes.
I got in my relationship, I was in other mode and thinking, oh, okay, okay. And rather than thinking, whoa, this guy made me feel a little weird with that statement. And he did a few times, but
Hmm.
I was totally focused there. So it means you just have a bit more healing to do with regard
Hmm.
to the boundaries and awareness. With everybody, we really do need to be more aware of them, and I
Yeah.
don't mean like be in threat mode, but just be aware,
What I hear you say is pay attention to the red flags, even the little baby ones,
even the little ones.
the little
Yeah.
baby tiny ones, and
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to your intuition. If it feels off,
Yes.
Don't sweep it under the carpet.
Mm-mm. As you see, I had no patience for it. Literally 10 minutes. Once I realized I was doing it, this person and I were done.
Like,
And I'm very
I'm doing it
strict
again.
about that. Yeah, be very strict about it. After you've had a narcissist or psychopath, you know what you have to go through to get back to your real self. It's hard. It's a lot of work you got to put in there. So this is why you do not just let people just come on in there into your energy, into your space. Get very strict. And I do. I think to myself, I'm not going to spend another 6 months on Diner Dash because I met you.
No more Diner Dash.
I'm being funny here, but
yeah, no, that's true.
What I'm saying,
it's true. No, like, because really you're more important than this guy is. So exactly. Yeah, no. Do healthy people fall for dysfunctional people? I get that question a lot.
I think they can, especially like covert narcissists, because they can seem so well put together and so helpful and so kind, and nobody will ever believe that this person was a narcissist, and so they can kind of hoodwink you in the beginning. They can definitely do that, and especially with what I call a histrionic narcissist. I had a friendship with a histrionic narcissist before I realized this person was one, and I mean, this person did a smear campaign on me like you would never believe.
What's a histrionic narcissist? Tell us what that means.
Well, it's not necessarily a full diagnosis. It's when, if I were to write a report, for example, the report would say narcissistic personality disorder with histrionic traits. And that's a blend of, I see that quite frequently, it's a blend of two of the cluster B personalities. Histrionic people they can seem like the life of the party. They're extremely attention seeking. They're very dramatic. Everything is, the worst thing happened to me. They're that type of person. When you blend the two, you've got all the traits of the narcissist, but all the traits of the histrionic narcissist. I'm sorry, histrionic personality disorder. So these are actually the most appealing of all the narcissists, because it's almost like their motto is you get more flies with honey. And so they'll just be so darn sweet and so helpful. They'll do anything for you. And so they have a bunch of superficial friends around them that they have helped in various ways. And those people think, this is the greatest guy in the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so this histrionic narcissist did something to me, and I realized, oh my gosh, you're a histrionic narc. And I made very clear, we're done. Nothing. We're completely done. Don't ever, ever come around me again. And because of me breaking that, this person, because we had, mutual friends, needed for some reason to explain why we were no longer friends. And so this person smeared me, made up all kinds of lies. And it was just like, wow, So a normal person can, because they really have the perfect mask, and it's almost like it's too late when you realize, oh, what have I gotten into here?
That's what's so hard. We're hoodwinked. It's like, what? Yes. Wait, who did the switcheroony on me? Like, how did this happen? Yes. I think you kind of talked about this a little bit, but is there anything else you want to say about how we can detach from an abuser?
Yeah, that one, as I said, that's hard. That's going to take awareness for sure. Regarding, how they make you feel, and realizing that you're bonded to somebody, and realizing that bonds don't necessarily mean love. Bonds we can bond to anything.
Ooh, that's a good quote. Bonds do not mean love. I'm writing that down. Yeah. That's a really, really good point. Bonds don't mean love.
No. The thing, and they're not bonded to you either. That's the other side of things. They're not bonded to you because their bonding system doesn't work in the same way. They have problems with their social neural networks, and thanks to neuroscience, we actually know that certain parts of their systems don't work properly. So you've bonded to this person who can't bond to you. As a matter of fact, they get pleasure out of seeing you, some of them, not all of them, because some of them literally are just so self-centered and it's just all about them. They really could care less about hurting you. It's just about them. Yeah. But some of them actually do get pleasure out of hurting you,
That's more, is that more like in the psychopath range than narcissist? Is that when we're kind of tipping the scale into psychopath?
Tipping towards, or the malignant narcissist, which is kind of we don't use that word in, like if I write a report, I could never write the word malignant narcissist. It'd be like, what is that? But I would write, for example, narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial traits. Okay. That means that we're blending again two disorders. And antisocial, by the way, is a bucket where you'll find psychopathy. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a psychopath and narcissist mix. To me, they're some of the worst just because they're so dysregulated and aggressive. Whereas in my opinion, the psychopath can actually be very calm, cool, collected. They don't need
Interesting.
you to feed them, that wow, you're
Oh,
amazing, you're special. If a matter of fact, if you were to do that with some psychopaths, they'll get very suspicious of you. Like, what are you trying to manipulate me? They don't
wow.
tolerate that. So yeah,
So can a narcissist change
I don't believe so. I based on what we know now
as far as the
in
brain goes?
science.
Yeah, because you think about a
Yeah.
narcissist brain.
Mhm.
Tell me, I mean, but and again, we don't have to spend a long time on this, but
No,
we're
it's okay.
not born as narcissists, correct? I mean,
Well, psychopaths probably yes. Interestingly, I think there's some research that shows that the heritability rate is like maybe 60%.
really?
Though,
For
yeah.
narcissism or
I
psychopath?
think so for narcissism. I have to look up that number again, but
Wow.
I think that I read that for narcissism. So if you got a narcissistic mom or dad, the chances are pretty high you could be a narcissist too. Now, I mean,
Fascinating.
yeah, they have more of a likelihood of it. So some of them are born, but again, we have a brain that is built on experiences. You know what I mean? Like the brain actually is changed by experiences, and so sometimes some childhood experiences can create the patterns of narcissistic personality
Mhm.
disorder.
Wow.
At critical times, the brain has been impacted. And when the brain gets impacted at critical times, it's really hard to kind of revert them back. So I will just say at this time, we don't have an effective treatment that pulls away that disorder and kind of makes them cured.
Okay.
I hope we do. I actually spoke to a neuroscientist who is responsible for a great deal of what we know about the brain. Him and his colleague took an MRI machine to prisons to evaluate psychopaths, look at the brain of psychopaths.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And his name is Michael Koenig's. His
Okay.
work is just fantastic. And
Okay.
I talked to Dr. Koenig's and I said, like, what about treatment? Like, what can we do to help them? And obviously, in essence, help us in society because they're so dangerous. He goes, the problem is that, as you know, he was saying so many systems of their brain is dysfunctional. It's so
Mm.
like, how do we address all these different systems with one pill or one treatment mode? And what he was referring to is that, for example, they have a problem with the bonding system. So we have chemistry like oxytocin, and
Mm.
and they have a problem with area like the reward system.
Yeah.
So we're talking like dopamine, the chemistry for that one, or they have a very hyper responsive reward system. That's why they love seeking new relationships and new things, and they get
Mm.
bored with their partners very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many they have prefrontal problems that control different sections of the bonding system. So like, he was saying, how do you find this one treatment that's going to take care of this disorder? We can't right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, but with narcissism, do you find that it's more like a scale? Because
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like with
Yeah.
narcissism,
Yeah.
like if someone has awareness around what they're doing, it seems to me, just in my own experience, and I haven't
Yeah.
it's not like that's the primary focus or was not the primary focus of my practice, but someone that comes in, I remember a girl had come in one time and she said, I'm afraid I'm a narcissist. Can you help me? And
Mm.
that was, I don't know. Again, this word has just started really being used like what, 10 some
Yeah.
years ago. And I remember it was probably around 10 years ago. I was like, of course, like, cause she was aware.
Mhm.
So do you find that like if someone is unaware, then no, but if someone is aware, it seems
Mhm.
like they have a better chance of really healing and working.
They could probably change some of their behaviors. They would have to probably keep that awareness up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are even some narcissistic abuse gurus who have admitted they have narcissistic personality disorder, and I would be curious, but not that curious, but a little curious to know. Not curious enough to ever ask them.
Not that curious. Yeah.
But curious to know what have they done, or if they've been wanting to improve this disorder, given that they write about the damage and harm, because these people write about the damage and harm and talk about the damage and harm that this disorder causes. Then have they changed in any way? So I don't know. I'm not a therapist, so I don't know.
Where is empathy in the brain? Because that's what narcissists seem to lack is empathy. Like they can't tune in to their partner or their loved ones and say, oh my gosh, I so get how you're feeling. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry.
It's more of a system
Okay.
of different brain areas. The prefrontal cortex is involved in empathy. Our amygdala is involved in empathy. Different neurons in those areas are involved. So it's not just like one little section of the brain. It's more like the system doesn't work properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there hope for people that can you, I guess the question would be, can you learn or build empathy if you lack empathy?
Emotional empathy, I would think no. Um, Cognitive empathy, perhaps, but they don't have any problems with cognitive empathy.
Yeah,
That's
they
how they
don't. Yeah.
manipulate.
I'm thinking of the ones that I know. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, they really don't. No, they get it. Like, I get that you're sad mentally, but I don't
Right. I don't
feel
feel
your
it.
sadness.
Yeah.
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 Like, can you change that?
I don't see how, like, because that's where Cadence was talking about with respect to oxytocin. Um, that how do you make that system suddenly start to respond properly, and how do we'd have to administer it. And then there's another neuroscientist, James Blair, I think he's the
Mhm.
head NIH. He was talking about that if you give them oxytocin, they found that they don't even have the same kind of reaction that normals do to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So it was
Wow.
like, because they were so excited, thinking, well, that's a way we could help and we can make a difference. But it's one of those systems that needs to be primed and
In childhood.
there you go, exactly. So if it was like a blank slate all that time, and suddenly you introduce a chemical that's supposed to work on that,
Hmm.
it kind of makes sense that it wouldn't work on that. So they
Interesting.
kind of threw their hands up again, and they're like, okay, well, that didn't work.
That's fascinating because you would think like that maybe if they did somatic experiencing or some sort of somatic therapy, that would help them, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say yes or no because I don't know if they've done any experiments to see.
Yeah.
The other problem is that, because they are so arrogant and self-centered and believe that they're better than everybody, treatment for even for somebody who's gone through trauma who can turn that around.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And personality is so much harder to turn around. So
Yeah.
they would have to have a commitment of years and years and years and years and years of doing treatment, I would think, unless of course a pill comes along.
Yeah.
But I mean, how could we get a narcissist or psychopath to commit to that? If it's treatment in that regard. Like I said, if it's a pill, then that's a different story.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. This was great. Very last question. And I think, again, we talked about this a little bit, but self-care and healing post the
Yeah.
relationship, other than like, I heard you say, you danced and
Oh yeah, yeah.
the somatic experiencing. Is there anything else you'd add to somebody
Mm.
or add that someone can do if they are healing post this relationship? They've left the relationship. Is there anything else that you'd recommend
Yeah.
other than Diner Dash?
You made me say that.
And Brain HQ. Brain
You
HQ.
made me say that.
I did.
Yeah.
And we thank you for telling us.
Yeah, the brain games, obviously learning, being around healthy people, going to either a coach or therapist, psychologist who's going to teach you about being aware.
Yeah.
Learning a little bit of neuroscience, I think, helps. And the only reason that I say that is because I'm a neuropsychologist. No.
Of course you should say that. Yes.
No, but it's because when you learn that your brain's shifting constantly in and out of different modes, all the time,
Yeah.
and learn what those modes feel like for you. Because what it feels like for me won't be the same as it does for you, Michelle.
Yeah.
So, learning what those modes feel like and taking cues from them. Like, for example, me being on that phone call, because I know me,
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was in a threat response and I was in appease mode. That's not my baseline. I knew, get away from this person immediately in this.
Yeah.
So you've got to get to that point too, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how you protect your space, your energy, and even yourself from getting into another narcissistic relationship. Because the brain won't be so focused on, oh, great, I met this new person. This is great. You're like, la la la. No, it'll be like, I'm feeling this right now. I'm feeling that right now. And it's not like this huge, like psychotherapy session you're having in your head. It's just basically going by what you feel, checking in real quick,
Mm-hmm.
and using those cues to your advantage. Yeah.
I heard you say something and I couldn't agree more as far as when you said it becomes an outward focus instead of staying connected to the self.
Yeah.
When we connect to someone, we lose ourselves. Excuse me, I didn't say that correctly. Instead of losing connection with self and connecting with other, you always have to maintain that connection with self. So we know what we're feeling. What is our intuition telling us?
Yes.
What's our awareness telling us? So don't lose connection with self. We've got to learn how to do that first and foremost. So Rhonda, this was so great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Loved
Michelle. I
it.
enjoyed it.
So tell us, where can people find you? Do you have anything going on that we should know about, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, you can find me at Neuro Instincts. Don't look up Rhonda Freeman because that's my actual neurology, practice work. So narcissistic stuff will be there. But Neuro Instincts is a website where I have a ton of information that can kind of help you understand the brain. And for those of you who are in that mode where you need to learn about the narcissist, because you do, if you don't know,
Yes.
then I have tons of information about narcissists. I don't know the timing that this will air, but in May, I have this new course coming out that's going to focus heavily on sort of reclaiming the self and how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be in the course kind of walking you through how to do that with regard to the brain.
This is going to air in April. So this is perfect timing then.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So this is all right on your website. People can go find out more about it.
Exactly.
Well, I will put that all in the show notes. And of course, follow you, of course, on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I often am talking there with people. So yeah, you have questions, just DM me or
Yeah. Awesome. We will do that for sure. Thank you so much, Rhonda.
Thank you.
We really appreciated it. This was
Thank you, Michelle.
phenomenal. Thank you, dear.